Congratulations, Edge. That's pretty good luck. Okay, so Final Fantasy 12 event. We do have a new character being introduced to the game with Combat 5, Spellblade 5. Though Balthier already had the ability to advance to Spellblade 5, Balthier, because Spellblade is not one of the Nightmare ability schools, it means Balthier stops at Spellblade 5. Rex, however, has the ability to use Snow Spell Strike, because as a natural Spellblade 5, that means he has instant access to the Nightmare, not the Nightmare, the modable Spellblade 6. So, Snow Spell Strike. Night 3, I mean, that's always going to be useful, Draw Fire. I'm probably never shattering that ability, even once I have Gaia Cross and Divine Cross. Black 4, let me take a look at your magic. Yeah. This is mostly probably for status effects and hitting target conditions. And White 4, totally very useful. Very useful. Always will be. However, your mind isn't that high, but whatever. I mean, paladins use that crap all the time, and it's great. Default, don't care. Record materia. Low chance for attack to turn into Thundering Twin Strike. It stinks. Medium damage up when hitting weakness. That's 20%, so no. Not that great. Wow, pretty surprising skill set. I would have expected Knight 4 at least, but Rex only got Knight 3. White 4 is kind of useful for bringing a utility, but Black 4 makes me very surprised. Yeah, Black 4 is probably never going to get used. He does have a really good array of gear access, though. Shouldn't be much of a problem gearing him. Yeah, what has he got? Dagger, sword, katana, spear. Yeah, that's a pretty good array, especially for the realm. Katanas and spears happen in Final Fantasy 12 a lot, so that's nice. Yeah, the Torment will be open tomorrow. We knew that on the announcement mine yesterday. How high is Papalymo's 6-hit thresholds? I think 1100 magic, somewhere around there. Ooh, we get the new 5-star shooter ability, Icicle Shot. Not that useful yet since we haven't had the shooter revamp. That should be coming with the Final Fantasy Type 0 event. That will be in July. Where we also get the Ruby Spike 5-star shooter for fire, which makes sharpshooters an actual worthy ability school instead of the mere shadow of one that we have right now. 1193, hey, it was close. Well, no, I was on. I just, it's much closer to 1200 than it was 1100. So yeah, this is a good ability. It just won't be yet, because not enough people have access to it. Legend Spheres. I'll look at this on the spreadsheet. Who do we got? From Balthier Vane. Alright, new Legend Spheres. We have Balthier. Opens up. Fire damage dealt? Sure. 30% chance to cause minor peril to a target after using Machinist ability on an enemy. That is really good as long as you have an excuse to use Machinist abilities on Balthier. That is not really a thing right now, especially when you consider minor peril fire. However, he does get a Burst Soul Break 2 on Banner 1 that perfectly synergizes with this LM2 and turns Balthier into probably, well, at this time, the best Imperil Fire character in the entire game. Which, I haven't looked deeply into it. He gets a little bit of competition later with Alina, because Alina has a great Imperil Fire burst, and Legend Materia 2, I believe. But still, Balthier actually becomes really good with this event. And this LM2 plays a big role in it. His LMR, which also appears on the first banner, is double cast Machinist abilities. Again, great. this is exactly what Agrius gets, which is a double cast of her school and then 30% chance of minor imperil when using her school. Great. I love this duo of Legend Materia, and I believe starting at this event, Balthier becomes a really powerful character, and I like him, and it's part of the reason why I like the banner. Next up, we have Fran. Physical attacks deal 10% more damage when equipping a bow. Do not care. But her LM2 is really good considering who Fran is. Increases duration of stat debuffs by 40% is a gigantic increase of duration. And with a character that can inflict as many debuffs as Fran can, this just lets her do a whole lot of stuff. With her BSB, I believe her USB as well, we'll get to that. I will go into this a little bit more once we see her on the second banner, because her USB appears there, and it's a really good USB. However, this is an issue. The fact that this LMR appears on the second banner, and it stinks, is terrible. It's a huge, huge miss. 30% chance to cause stun to the target, with 2 conditions on that stun. Stun is already not that valuable, and 30% chance is a low percentage, and now you give me 2 conditions for 2 support ability and when equipping a bow. It sucks. This is one of the worst Legend Materia relics in the entire game. Next up, we have Vayne. Increased dark damage by 10%, fine. Dual cast dark, good. And grants attach dark at the beginning of the battle. Not as good when you consider that his entire damage package is basically centered around his burst soul break, which also gives attach dark. I like these LMR more when you have a character that kind of has 2 soul breaks working for him, or 1 soul break that uses something different. Say Vincent, for instance. His burst soul break is a fire burst that gives radiant shields instead of an attach element status. So this goes together really well with it, because this will carry over into his cast. It's not terrible. It's not bad. I think I'm making out to be worse than it is. It's not bad because a lot of the time when you have a character like this, nah, never mind. I think it's really bad on Vayne. Sorry for rolling back on that. See, a lot of characters, if you have this, see, Vayne has an attached dark burst, so you want to start the fight working towards it, right? And the best way to do that would be to exploit vulnerability for most characters, right? And Vayne would use Memento Mori as a mage. He would use Memento Mori and Dire Heal, probably. It's your best spammer ability for him. The problem with Vayne is he also has Combat 4 available to him, so he can just Life Siphon instead of using Wrath. So Life Siphon doesn't benefit from the Attached Dark. So the only benefit that you're getting from starting the battle with Attached Dark is the increased damage on the entry. That's just not much. It's just not a lot of benefit. For something that you're getting through the gacha, it should be more powerful than this. It's not suited for Vayne. He would have been better with something else. So that's an LMR if you want to develop Vayne. I know there's not a whole lot of you out there that want to do that, but this is not a good LMR. So that makes the second banner, because Vayne and Fran's LMR are the two relics on the second banner. It really dumps on it pretty hard, in my opinion. So there you go. There is our Legend Materia for this. And now we'll move on to the banners themselves. First banner, we have two USBs. That's why I was thinking. I could have sworn when I was talking about it earlier that there were two USBs here, and I'm kicking myself for forgetting that Penelo's is here, because Penelo's is really good, and definitely contributes to how good this banner is. But anyway, first off, we have the Yagyu Darkblade for Vaughn. I believe is a katana. So 0 cast time, 10 single target. Sure. Random is good because it inflicts a debuff. And it's attack resistance, which is a little weird. I mean, it's not there for effectiveness purposes, it's there for stacking purposes. Because there aren't many attack and resistance debuffs, I suppose. So it's meant to be in, I guess, antithesis of his Burst Soul Break. However, his Burst and his USB don't really go together that well. And that's kind of, no, that's a little weird. And anyway, you'll find out why they don't go together that well. His USB is meant to be standalone. And he gives himself attack and resistance plus 30%. That's just a little mug buff that he gives himself that's going to stack with just about everything. And X mode Sky Pirate. So he gets thief ability damage plus 30%. That's high. And instant cast on all thief abilities. That's also really powerful. That's really powerful. And because his BSB doesn't do anything thiefy, means this 15-second status that you're getting from Vaughn is not meant to be used with his Burst Soul Break, unfortunately. If you get his USB, you're pretty much, if you want to invest in it, it'd be a high hone on Thief's Revenge. Yeah, this is that's what it's meant for, and not to be used with his BSB, which makes the fact that it's so different from his Burst Soul Break debuff a little puzzling. We would have preferred attack and defense here, definitely. So yeah, if you have a high hone Thief's Revenge and you use this on Van, you're going to be doing a lot of damage, as long as you have, proper support on the team. Zero cast time entry is going to do a lot of damage. Attack buff on himself is going to do a lot of damage. Thief ability, I don't think it's thief ability. Something in my head is telling me that I've seen a different status. Sky Pirate. No, it is. It must have been somebody else. Somebody out there gets a non-elemental damage boost. But Vaughn gets thief abilities deal 30% more damage and basically insta-cast for thief abilities. So he does a lot of damage. It has a nice debuff attached to it. Because it's focused on doing a debuff, means it's not really suited for Magicite, but that's okay, because the game doesn't revolve around that. But something to consider when you remember that there will eventually be a non-elemental Magicite. I think there is. And non-elemental characters, if they're good enough, like Noctis, can be put into elemental teams and assist them, because they do non-elemental damage and won't be omni-resisted. But Vaughn probably isn't one of those. I mean, he could. It's just not as good as someone like Noctis, that's all. But a good USB is going to do a hell of a lot of damage just because of this. And a nice Thief's Revenge. And it basically, because you're insta-casting Thief's Revenges, it makes you invulnerable for that 15 seconds. It's hard to kill somebody within the span of 1 ATB. Question: do you get more speed, Thief's Revenge hits, out of his burst mode versus normal Heiska? Do you get more speed? Heiska does not improve your speed stat, so yes. Burst mode does increase your speed stat by 10%. Heiska does not. So next up we have Penello's USB, which is a repeat but a welcome one. Zero cast time Kiraga Medica is really nice. And HP Stock 2000 is really nice, and Party Physical Blink is really nice. This is a very slight change from Rosa's USB, but there is a big change from Penello to Rosa, where Rosa is a support healer that can wrath out these USBs. Penello is more of a dancer healer. That's her, secondary skill set. So you lose a lot, I would say, going from Rosa to Penello. However, it's still, regardless, extremely powerful. even if physical blink isn't as valuable as magical blink. Really nice. Really, really nice USB. And already 2 good relics, so we're off to a good start on this banner. And next up we have the start of the bursts. We have Rex BSB. Whitefall. Party attack and defense plus 30% and haste. That is really nice. Like we have Mog's BSB on the current Final Fantasy VI banner that does magic and mind and haste. For mage parties, we now have Rex's attack and defense and haste for physical parties. And let's check out the commands and see how they turn out. We have 4 times single target, thunder and ice. Multiplier increases if weaker and perilled. This is actually pretty good. And when you're not exploiting thunder and ice, you can always just use the second command instead for 4 times single target and heal ally for a percentage of maximum HP. That's a 25% heal, like most of them. So non-elemental good. And definitely much better if you're against thunder and ice. So this is actually a really good burst. About as good as I would say Mog's is. And we saw on the opener to the event that Rex actually has a pretty good skill set too, just like Mog does. He's not as support as Mog, because Mog has Dancer 5 capability, but he can... let's see, what does he have, like, specifically? Just refresh me. Spellblade. Okay. So you would use that, and he has a lot of coverage capability because of that Spellblade. Give him a Protect Gashelga and a Spellblade 5, and or even Snowspell Strike. So that's a lot of elements that he can cover. So he's useful in a wide variety of places. So this is a really good burst on what seems like a pretty good character too. Does the second command count as Spellblade? Good question. Let's check it out. Yes, the first command is a Spellblade command, and the second command is a Knight command. Oh, so the second command count as Spellblade. No, it doesn't. The first one. Alright, next up, I briefly talked about Balthier's Burst Soulbreak when I was talking about the Legend Materia, and here we're going to dive into it. We have Balthier's BSB2. Remember, BSB2. His BSB1 is awful, and we're very happy that that is not in the Relic Pool anymore. And we're very happy that that didn't show up on the festival like Cecil's did. So we have 8 single target random, good because it's an Imperil Fire. And burst commands are kind of like Squall's BSB2, where we have 2 single target fire non-elemental with a medium chance to minor Imperil Fire, and that's really nice because we like Squalls already, and all that does is 2 single target and generates the draw injunction for his second command, while this one does the same thing, as we'll find out here. Multiplier increases with use of Oil Bomb, but you get a little added benefit of Imperil Firing, or a medium chance of minor Imperil Fire instead. Where it gains there, it loses in the damage category, where this is 4 single target and multiplier increases with uses of Oil Bomb during the burst mode. So you don't get the gigantic damage. However, the fact that these are Machinist abilities, and he can double cast Machinist, and when he uses Machinist abilities, have another chance to minor Imperil Fire when using his Legend Materia, means that he is Imperil Fire guy. He could probably maintain a 60%er just by himself. Does it reset after use? No, it does not. It would be similar to Squalls in that regard. Yeah, a double Spellblade RM would be fine-ish. I mean, I'd obviously rather use something like Spellblade damage increase instead. Double Spellblade is a 15% chance to do double Spellblade, which on a long enough timeline is only a 15% boost in damage, where Celeste's last RM, I believe, is 40% increased Spellblade damage. If you're not capping out on your Spellblades and your commands, then you'd definitely rather be using that instead. However, greater than all of those, considering the fact that his burst entry grants Heiska and attack and defense to the entire party, means you're probably going to be Mako Mighting on Rex. So, yes, you can. Okay, I'm not going to say that with utmost certainty. I don't believe it's been tested. However, the most commonly held opinion is that Imperil is all the same thing, and that you can get up to 60%. So, say we're Imperiling during that multiplayer with Agrius on the boss. That Agrius Imperil can get up to 60% with 3 applications, right? I believe the Minor Imperil, which is 10% each, works on the same thing. So you can regular Imperil, and then Minor Imperil, and it all still caps out at 60. So not ideally, but theoretically, you could do have 2 regular Imperils going with 2 Minor Imperils for 60%, and that would be the most Imperil that you can inflict. I believe that is how it works. I have not seen anything to the contrary. I'll do my experimentation by myself in 4.5 months when I legend dive Agrius and get her Minor Imperil and have her BSB itself. Someone said it's limited to 3 stacks, but it doesn't make sense to me. Well, that's what I think too. I think it's just Imperil is limited to 60%, whether it's minor or not. That's what I believe. With regular Imperils being a 20%er and minors being a 15. So anyway, I really like this burst. And I really like Balthier, the character now. He has some really awesome legend materia to go along with this burst. So that's another hit on this banner. I like everything that I've seen so far. Next up, we have a fairly old burst, a couple events now. 15 or 10. Minor is 10%, where regular Imperil is 20. But it's not a bad one. I believe the Holy Lance itself is plus holy damage. It is. And the BSB is just 6 AoE and holy, very typical entry with 4 to 5 hits with an additional hit. It normally does 5, but an additional hit if you're attacking weaker Imperil. And that's nice. I usually like getting an extra hit because it not only increases the multiplier, but increases your total damage that is able to be dealt at 50k instead of 40k. And the second command is fine. It just gives... I don't know. There's so much better. So I definitely think the bonus is in his first command, but it does save you an ability slot if you have to run Bosch as a Tauntaliator, because he can at least self-retaliate himself with his second command. But I think it's still a fair burst, kind of just a little bit above average, just with the strong first command. So definitely not on the same level as everything else on the banner so far, but not a bad hit. Next up, we have the 2 Legend Materias. We have Vaughn's Legend Materia Relic, small duration up of status debuffs cast by self. When everything that Vaughn does is status debuff oriented, that's fine. That's definitely a nice thing to have for him. A little weird with his USB, when you consider that it's not really meant to go with his BSB. However, I believe, and that did come true, that his Super Soul Break is on this banner. With a 0 cast time, area of effect, attack and defense minus 40%. This is actually comboed just as well with his USB as his BSB is. So that gives you options. So this is a good super that we've spotted down on the bottom of the banner, which is always a good thing. Where he can, with his USB, this is your damage source. You can use either his BSB if you have it, or his Super Soul Break, depending on the boss that you're facing. If you want to break attack defense, or magic defense with his burst. So, good to have both of those options available to you. And because you have access to this Legend Materia, that means your status debuffs last a lot longer, which is nice for him. I believe 30% because it's an LMR. Right, 30% because it's an LMR, which usually are like LM2s, but have a reduced effectiveness. See, we see an LM2 for Fran is 40%. If it was LMR, the same Legend Materia type would be a 30%, and we see that on Bomb. And Lion too. Bomb. Next up, we have Balthier's Goggle Mask. And this is his extremely good double cast machinist abilities. We see a little 6 here. What is that? Small resistance to blind. I guess that's not bad. We do have a lot of major resistance in the game, but still, status resistance stack, so that's not a bad thing. Anyway, good Legend Materia. It's nice to see 2 good Legend Materias that are thematic with the banner, which is Vaughn and Balthier. So like that. Rex. His Super Soul Break is 8 single target, Party Medica. Kind of lacking compared to some of the Party Medica Super Soul Breaks, but still fine. You're never going to say no to this. Not good by itself without his BSB, but say you have his BSB and you're generating extra Soul Break for whatever reason. Say you're exploiting weakness with his first command on Lightning and Ice, and you find yourself with an extra bar. I will never say no to just a free Medica to the party, right? Hey, no problem. Have a good night, Bossa. And I went over Vaughn's Super Soul Break already. 0 cast time, attack and defense minus 40% debuff. Great. And it definitely very complementary with the things that Vaughn does. So I like this super a lot. Balthier's Inferno. 5 AoE, fire and elemental, and gives him end fire. This is fine, but it's mostly going to be relegated to full throttle, or jumpstart rather. I know at least the super itself is small fire damage up, so it's light armor with fire damage, so that's good. However, because Balthier is a Imperiler, and you're benefited by the more times you can cast Imperil, it means that this isn't exactly something that you cast with his burst, because you just want to keep casting his burst to, throw all the Imperil that you can onto the boss, because it increases his damage a lot as well as everyone else's. And that's generally gonna, if you're creating your team properly, is gonna net more damage output than giving himself end fire. So in Jumpstart, though, I can see casting this first and then going into 2 Imperils, because he has the ability to minor Imperil up to the 60%. So too much Imperil is wasted because of the cap. And this would be nice there. So it's not as good, but still good. And Defender Bosch, Rune and Pendant, 8 single target, physical blink. I guess it's fine, but this is definitely just Jumpstart. So we faded off a little bit with these two. However, this is all good. Everything here. I have misgivings about Bosch's BSB because it's kind of old, and the only exceptional, or the thing that makes it stand out is that 5-hit command. which is fine. And he is a Tauntaliator. There aren't many holy Tauntaliators, are there? I'm pausing because I'm thinking. Leo? We just did see Leo show up on the second banner of the 6th event. Not Leon. No, not Leo. Yes, Leo. Samurai 4. So he can Tauntaliate. Is that it? Yeah, I guess so. So I guess there's value to be found in that. But still, it's good. That 5-hit command is actually just good enough by itself if you need a Holy Knight. Holy Knight, that's also a Tauntaliator. Pasha's a good character. So even though this isn't as strong as some of this other stuff on this banner, it's still good. If this is the worst burst that you're running here, that's a good thing. So moving on to banner 2, we find the Fran and Vayne banner. Fran's USB is actually really good. 8 RS small ice damage up, don't care. We have 6 AoE ice and dark. Scream to the Netherworld, that sounds pretty dark. Range, physical damage, and enemy in peril ice. And party quick cast 2. This is global quick cast, so it actually affects everything that you can cast, not just physical abilities or magical. So that's a really useful thing, especially in full throttle. Well, I gotta mute Slack for a second. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's really good, and it's an Imperil Ice. And that's extremely rare. The only one that's currently in the game is Laguna's Super Soul Break, which obviously doesn't hold a candle to this. So that's a really good USB. Probably, I wouldn't say... I think it would be more valuable to me than Vaughn's USB, but not Penello's. So it's at least competitive with the first banner. And next up we have Vayne's OSB. And here's a problem. OSBs just don't have a lot going for them. They don't do much. They're just damage. At least, I believe the Sephora... Well, it's plus 20% dark damage, but I forget what kind of relic it is. And because it is plus 20% dark damage, it's pretty damn relevant. It's a sword. Okay. Well, Sid Reigns can use swords. Nabat can use swords. Golbez can use swords. Can Exdeath? I don't think Exdeath can use swords. So this is actually a good relic. It allows Nabat and Golbez, 2 of the better dark mages in the game, to have access to a 6-star all-realm darkness. But obviously not as good as Kuja's. Kuja's is a rod, and all these people that I've mentioned can use it. Exdeath can use swords? Yes, you can. You're right. But anyway, so if we're gonna rate the 6-star darkness OSBs, it would be Kuja's, because that's a rod, and all of these darkness mages can use it. Vayne's at 2, because there's a lot more sword users than the third position, which would be the Sid Reigns Glove OSB, which I believe can only be used by Sid Reigns and Vayne. I think another advantage here is probably that Vayne as like a real hybrid. There is a lot of attack also on the sword, so it could be used for physical characters as well. Yeah, I only spotted Vayne and Sid Reigns for mages. So I guess as far as valuable relics go, since it can be used by both physical and magical, this is an extremely good relic. Because if we look at the stats on it, where are you, buddy? Dark Sephira? Yeah, it's 166 attack and 159 magic. Ooh, I guess that's an issue. Because if you augment it, it's only going to hit the attack. So you're stuck on 159 magic, so that's something to consider. One of the best parts about 6-star relics is the fact that you can augment them 30 times, well, 27 since you start out with 3, for an extra 30 of your primary statistic, and that's going to be attack. So Kuja's is still the best for mages. Well, this one would be good for mages, but best for physicals. So, really good relic. And it's just an OSB. So there's not much I can say about the actual effect itself. Holy and Dark, huh? I guess so. It's still just an OSB. Next up we have Franz Perseus Bow, which is 3 events old, but still really good. It gets a little power creep soon by almost a complete straight upgrade in Shulk's BSB. But it will always be good because her and Shulk have the only 2 Hyper Break BSBs, and there are some fights, like this multiplayer, where it is really useful to break the opponent's mind and get that mind stat down, so you're those stops that are hard to avoid because you just spams the crap out of them. You're going to get stopped, and it's a fact of life. And having it low is nice. Next up, we have Vayne's BSB, which is... I have it, and I can verify for you that it is not good. It has a little nice utility on the commands, where you either command, only one will be active for him, meaning, you're either running him as physical or magical, but on both of them, you have self 20% max HP recovery. It's just self, and that isn't as good. It would be so much better if it was not random, but lowest health target member. That'd be great. However, it's not that good. The real problem with it to me is the low multiplier on the commands. It means that he can do dark damage because he's got End Dark. He's not really a great dark damage dealer, and I don't believe this is enough to make up for it. Does Irvin have a Hyper Break or just Full Break? Well, he has a Hyper Break, Super Soul Break. Right, Raccoon brought that up. He does not have a Full Break. His BSB is attack and defense minus 50%. So, Vayne's BSB is I mean, it works with the banner. Getting these 2 together wouldn't be terrible. He would be at least an okay member of a Darkness team. Not Holy, though. Yeah, because he only has Holy on the OSB. Like, that's an issue. He would just be a Life Siphon character against a Holy Vulnerable boss. Life Siphon, then OSB. Kind of weak in the grand scheme of things. Next up, we have an extremely good burst in Lars's. Curaga Medica and Party Status Blink 1, very good, very good. And typical commands, he has an Instacast Curaja on Command 1, and Medica Command on Command 2. Just very good, and Lars is one of the better healers in the game, like Rosa and the Cat Girl. He has access to Support 4. Not only does he have access to Support 4, but he also has access to Support 5, which is more useful than it sounds. Being able to throw out a Full Break, or even better, an Affliction Break, from your healer is actually kind of useful in a lot of situations, especially in heavy status fights where I was talking about Lars's? Okay, well... Yeah, Lars is good. Lars is a good character, and his Burst Soul Break is excellent. We do get another Status Blink burst. We do get a good Status Blink burst in the near future for Iris on the Final Fantasy 15 banner. Oh, chat is not active. At least I can see chat, so there's that. There's not much I can do about that, unfortunately. That is the service that does my chat. That's up to them. So, anyway, if you really, like, if your team needs a status blink burst from your healer, you can also consider getting it from there instead, which is also a good banner. Iris's Burst Soul Break is a little different, where the Medica is just an H60, so it would be Cura. H55, sorry. As a Cura level Medica, and it sacrifices that heal to add a Stone Skin 30% bubble to the party, but also provides Status Blink 1. The drawback to all of that is Iris is a support, not a support. She's a Dancer 5 instead of a Support 5. So more useful in some situations, but overall probably less useful than having Support 4 capability. Okay, so next up we have Fran. Oh, it's Legend Materia time. I already went over both of these, and I talked about how bad they are. They're bad. Medium chance to stun enemy when using his support abilities and equipped with a bow. This is just terrible. Vayne's start battle with Endark is okay. It's just not really worth being on a relic. But it's going to do something, unlike this. So at least it's got that going for it. And what's this 14 stand for? Small dark damage up. So there you go. That is light armor. Hybrid light armor. 12 attack, 12 magic. So there you go. There's your Legend Materia. Now we move into the Super Soul Breaks, which is Arcadian Drought. This is just a Party Heiska Kiraga Medica for Larsa. It's fine. You know how good that is, depending on what you have. Fran's Yoichi Bow, which is not good. The problem with Fran and her Pinpoint Super Soul Break is the fact that she has absolutely no way to inflict lightning damage. It's not part of her kit in any shape or form. So, yeah. She can't even exploit the element that she's imperiling. So the only option available to you is to Wrath spam it out, which is just really bad. Really bad in the grand scheme of things, especially when you consider that it's physical. So by Wrathing, you're overriding any single stat attack buffs on yourself to do the Imperil Lightning. I mean, it will work at a pinch if you need to do that. However, as far as Imperil options go, it's one of the worst. One of the absolute worst. Next up, Consul's Brigandine. Again, we have a 15. I bet that's plus dark damage up. It is. Wow. Nice elemental armor on this banner. Super Soul Break is actually really good. 5 AoE, Dark Non-Elemental, physical or magical, because he's hybrid, whatever. But grants party instant cast 1. And here we run into the same thing we ran into with Larsa. There is another version of this that shows up on the Final Fantasy 15 banner. It belongs to Noctis in Super Soul Break form. But it is so much better. Noctis' Super Soul Break is so powerful that it can be better than a lot of bursts and OSBs because of how powerful it is. Because while this gains hybrid as its little unique characteristic, Noctis's gains instant cast. Instant cast then provide 5 charges of Instacast distributed among the party is extremely powerful, and it is also single target. So being non-elemental allows Noctis to just go nuts with just his Super Soul Break and be a damaging support for an elemental party, or for any party, with his Super Soul Break. So the fact that I like this super, and I think that it's actually good, it is a good super, just goes to show how favorably I view someone like Noctis' Super Soul Break. So it's another little overlap with the Final Fantasy 15 event. Next up, last on the banner, we have Staff of the Magi, which is a plus holy damage staff. There aren't many of those. You'd think there would be, well, there would be, but there aren't. And gives party protect shell and stone skin 30%. Full throttle, not much use elsewhere. Kind of like ethereal pulse for Y'shtola, and I'll be honest, I full throttle with Y'shtola a few times, and I still don't use her ethereal pulse. I pretty much just wall and then asylum. That's all I do with her. So this is probably not very good, except that it is a good relic at least. So how would I feel about this banner? This sucks. The 2 Legend Materia suck. This is a Medica. It's a Medica. This is bad. So, with this part of the banner... No, not that part of the banner. This part of the banner down, being kind of spotty. It's definitely not as good as the first banner. Absolutely not. Which stinks, because I really like this relic, even though I don't really care for the Soul Break. But the fact that Imperial Ice is so rare means that I would like this in some capacity, because having an Imperial Ice with Quick Cast 2 is really powerful, I think, especially when you consider that Fran is a sharpshooter, and with the new Icicle Shot ability for sharpshooters, she can take advantage of it. So she is good when using her USB, and she's good when using her BSB. Like them both. But I don't believe that this is the banner to go for it, because there's just a lot of lot of dirt going on here. This banner's actually really good. If you're in the market for Final Fantasy 12 synergy, it'd be hard to pass up on this, I suppose. Even considering what it's around, it's a good banner, and it stinks. We do not have any information on the next Final Fantasy 12 event in Japan. There hasn't been one in all of this time. This is the last one that we know of. We know that there's going to be one in the future, and it's probably going to be more focused on Ash, because Ash doesn't have a Lamar yet. Ash and Penelo, probably. But yeah, there you go. Any questions? Super. That is just the way the Japanese players denote their soul breaks. We use Ultra Soul Break, they use Ultra Super Soul Break, which is why... Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine. I love any opportunity to make fun of the Japanese players and the weird things that they say and do. Love it. So I appreciate it.